Hello, I'm April Brown with Zelken Financial Services, LLC, and I'm back with a tip, today's illuminated point. So recently I came across an article talking about universal basic income. The article got me to thinking about what that means and would it work. So I read some additional articles and listened to a TED Talk by Rutger Bergman, in this TED 2017. So I wanted to talk about universal basic income today because I found it just really fascinating. A 3-year study was done from 2020 to 2023 on universal basic income. That was actually backed by the OpenAI founder, Sam Altman. He wanted to study the effects of giving low-income people guaranteed paydays with no strings attached. So the program provided $1,000 per month, roughly to about 1,000 low-income participants across Texas and Illinois, along with a $50 per month to a control group of some 2,000 participants. Altman set out to answer some questions about how people behave when they're given free cash. And the questions were this: do people sit around and play video games, or they create new things? Or are people happy and fulfilled? That was just some of the questions. So Altman, whose OpenAI is behind the generative text tool ChatGPT, which threatens to take away some jobs, and said in a blog or a recent blog post that he thinks technology's elimination of traditional jobs could make universal basic income necessary in the future. So before Altman's 3-year study, there were 150 basic income pilot programs and counting around the country, from big cities to rural counties. Supporters say it works because people can spend money on whatever they need the most. Cash aid without conditions was considered a radical idea before the pandemic. But early results from programs in Stockton, California showed promise. So then the interest exploded, really after COVID, because it became clear how COVID stimulus checks and emergency rental payments had helped people. So something else I ran across was the U.S. Census Bureau found that the expanded child tax credit cuts actually cut child poverty in half, because they were offering that. And when the expansion ended, child poverty spiked. So what does all of this mean? So essentially, when people have cash, it allows folks to stay out of poverty and have some options. So that's what they're finding with these different pilot programs that they had done long before this 3-year study program. So let's talk about what Open Research data uncovered. So Open Research is an organization that actually did the study. The research was broken up into 5 parts, and this is what they gleaned from the study. So the 5 parts are employment, health, entrepreneurship, agency, moving. So let's talk about employment first. That's the first. So some of the recipients showed that if they had enough money to meet their basic needs, they were willing to give up some additional income and the items it would allow them to buy to meet their other needs, such as for caregiving, leisure, learning, exploring, and a myriad of other ways they're valued spending time. So, essentially, if they're given this extra money with no strings attached, people were able to really take care of their basic needs. And if their basic needs are taken care of, then that allows them to be able to do some other things. So instead of having to have a secondary job or work additional overtime, they had time to do other things as opposed to being stuck at work. So the other piece of this was cash gave them more flexibility to do as they saw fit with the money. So that was the employment. So the second portion of this, or the second part, was health. So cash is flexible, and it gives people increased ability to decide how to prioritize their needs, meaning they could take steps towards improving their health. But for many others, cash was one piece of the puzzle in confronting deep-seated health issues or disparities. So with additional money, they were able to focus on their health. The cash that they received allowed them to use hospitals and emergency department care and some type of office-based medical care. So particularly dental and specialist care. And some of the recipients reported decreases in problematic alcohol use and some type of illicit drug use. So a mouthful, but basically with the extra cash that they had, they were able to determine how to use that. And a lot of the time, and some of the time, they were able to take care of their health needs. And when your basic needs are taken care of and you can focus on your health needs, that just makes all the difference in the world. So the third portion, or the third part of this, was entrepreneurship. So what they found was cash increased interest in entrepreneurship. There were noticeable increases in entrepreneurial activities for underrepresented groups, i.e. Black folk. So this suggested that although cash had effects on entrepreneurial interests and a mindset for the recipients on average, those who were in a better financial position at the start of the transfer or when they started receiving the money were more likely to be able to act upon these interests. So if folks were in a better financial position, they could take the extra cash to start a business or to move in a direction to start a business. So, that's fantastic, when you had extra cash to do some stuff. With that said, the next piece was agency, or next part of it was agency. So I want to define this because I was like, okay, what do they mean exactly? So what the hell is agency? So in social science, agency refers to someone's ability and resources to think about, plan, and pursue goals in ways that align with their values and desires. So the amount of agency a person has in part determines or is determined by the resources available to them and the barriers in their path. So what they find is that the cash increased possibilities to dream bigger, do more, and consider more. Number 5, and this was the last piece of the part, or the study, was moving. So cash increases interest in moving. So moving from their neighborhood or moving from their city or state. And so recipients reported greater interest in moving and took action to search for new housing, especially in the final year of the transfer or the money that they were receiving in 2023. Because part of that is, if you got this extra money coming in, now you can look at, okay, where we're living at is not quite where we want to be. We're looking at something else, and we can look at moving. Now they have the extra cash to move if they need, to utilize it in that way. And so, for a lot of people, they're like, yo, I've been wanting to leave the state or the city I'm in. I can bounce out now that I have this money. So cash increases the possibility to move. So the recipients were more than likely than control participants, those who were receiving that $50, to move housing units and move to other neighborhoods. And also recipients were more likely to pay for housing. So at the start of this program, what they found was it was common for recipients to live with friends or family, which allowed them to save money on rent and utilities, especially during the pandemic. After receiving the cash, recipients were about 4.2% more likely to pay for housing. So quantitative data suggested some recipients could afford to move out on their own, as opposed to staying with family or friends, or other living arrangements that does not involve regular payment. So for some of the people living in toxic or abusive environments, the cash transfer allowed them to secure a healthier arrangement. So just know this idea is not new. I listened to that TED Talk that I mentioned, the episode with Roger Bergman, who talked about this very thing. And so the TED Talk was very interesting to me, and it supported what the study said, especially this 3-year study. So if you get a chance, please watch it. I've included the link in the bio. And just know this, there are other people actually who had the same idea long before this was thought of in 2020. And so some of those folks were Martin Luther King Jr. And the Black Panthers actually called for guaranteed income. So we're talking 60s, 70s. So briefly did President Richard Nixon. So there's some entrepreneur texts who are talking about this also, because everybody's like, AI is going to take jobs and that kind of thing. So the conversation around universal basic income is, it's important. And I found it to just be really fascinating, because I never thought about what that would look like. But I, actually had a conversation with a really good friend of mine yesterday, and we talked about this. And when people don't have to think about how to take care of their basic needs because they've got enough money to do that, then that affords them and that allows them an opportunity to look at other things, like to figure out what aligns with my purpose and my values. What else can I think about doing without having to worry about, paying for my basic needs, health, my housing, food, transportation, because those things are covered. I can focus on some other stuff. So, it's just food for thought. And I hope you got something out of this. I thought it was pretty cool. So please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And until the next time, I am April Brown with Zelken Financial Services, LLC. Have a great day.